We have Justin Herbert and the Los Angeles Chargers taking on Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. This is your Week 10 2025 prediction and preview video. Let's just straight into it with the home team here, the LA Chargers. Entering this matchup, they currently have a 6-3 record, and they're coming off a win last week against the Tennessee Titans. They won this game 27-20. Justin Herbert, 19-29, 250 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 1 interception. He also was a leading rusher for the team. He had 57 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. Outside that interception, Justin Herbert had a phenomenal game against Tennessee. But this is the problem here in this matchup against the Steelers. Justin Herbert got sacked 6 times against the Tennessee Titans. The Steelers last week, they feasted on Daniel Jones and the Indianapolis Colts. And entering that matchup, the Colts, and they still do, have one of the best offensive lines in football. And they could not protect Daniel Jones enough against TJ Watt, Herbig, Alex Highsmith, and Cameron Hayward. And this offensive line with the Chargers, they're not fully healthy. Joe Alt went down with an ankle injury last week. He's going to miss the rest of the season. Rashawn Slater has missed his entire season with a knee injury that he suffered in training camp. So you're down to your backup tackles here. Bobby Hart, he's questionable for this game. He's dealing with a groin injury. And you have Trey Pipkins, who can play guard, he can play tackle. He's not a good, consistent player on the offensive line. That's why you made the trade to bring in Trevor Penning from the New Orleans Saints, and he's bounced around the offensive line with the Saints in the past from being a tackle. And he was drafted as a tackle. They moved him inside as a guard. Right now, he is slated to play left tackle in this game. Regardless of who is playing at the tackle position, you need to get the football out quick. And I look at Greg Roman. He coached in this division against the Steelers. He's the former offensive coordinator with the Baltimore Ravens. The Steelers, they still run the same type of system with their defense. It's the same type of scheme that they have. They'll play some press man coverage. They'll mix in some zone. But you look at what Joe Flacco was able to do a couple weeks ago, and the same with Jordan Love. You have to get that football out quick. You have to get Justin Herbert into a rhythm. It's similar to basketball here. When certain players, they hit those shots, they're in the rhythm. That's the same thing here with Justin Herbert. Get him in a rhythm underneath. Test out those linebackers in space and build space for your tight end. And this is what I mean. You can stack Ladd McConkey and Quentin Johnson on one side of the field. You have Arande, who has been a very good receiving tight end ever since he had that breakout game against the Dolphins. Have him on the inside. Keenan Allen on the other side. The defense, they have to pick. Who do you want to double team? Who do you want to press up? You give that space to Arande across the middle of the field. You go to him. He's a speedy tight end. He can get you 10 to 15 yards a catch if you're not careful, if you're the Steelers here. But you have to be able to build space for Justin Herbert, this tight end, and those wide receivers to get the football out quick. You want to neutralize his pass rush. And the Steelers' pass rush, you don't want to just throw a bunch of screen passes. TJ Watt will flip his hips back into coverage. Then he'll come down, deflect the ball at the line of scrimmage. That can go for an interception. That happened last week with Peyton Wilson. They sent him in on a blitz. It went for a pop-up interception on the Colts. You cannot have those moments in this matchup. You have to protect Justin Herbert with play calling here. It is what it is at the offensive line position. It does suck that Rashawn Slater hasn't played this season. And the same with Joe Alt. What really concerns me is this. When they lost against the Washington Commanders, they didn't have Joe Alt on the field. When they lost against the New York Giants, he left that game early with an ankle injury. When Joe Alt has not been able to finish games this season, the offense is drastically different. That's the impact that he has with this offense. But at the same time, Greg Roman, you have to adjust your game plan. You can beat the Steelers with a bunch of quick game here. They're 32nd in passing defense. Jalen Ramsey, they have him at the safety position right now. And he can move around that secondary. He could be inside the nickel. He could play outside corner. But if he's at that safety position, you can get you some very good plays underneath on Darius Slay. The receivers that the Chargers have are very talented. Ladd McConkey is still a very good football player. 4 catches last week, 56 receiving yards. Quentin Johnson has had a very good season this year. 4 catches, 53 receiving yards last week, 1 receiving touchdown. Keenan Allen, 2 catches, 41 receiving yards, and they have Trey Harris. But the leading guy as a receiver has been Arande over the last 4 weeks. Feed him as much as possible. And we saw the Steelers struggle against the tight end a couple weeks ago and Tucker Kraft with the Green Bay Packers. The running back position, you still have Vidal. Vidal is a tough physical running back, but he only averaged 2.5 yards a carry last week, and he did have a fumble. Right now, he may be in the doghouse with the Chargers. We'll see. Marion Hampton will not play in this game. He is not expected to come back until week 12. So we'll see what happens at the running backs position. Najee Harris, he won't be able to play in this game. He tore his Achilles a month ago against the Denver Broncos. But you have talent on the perimeter. Test out these linebackers and really test out Patrick Queen. That's the linebacker that you want to test out in coverage. And you have to let Justin Herbert use his legs as well. But you have to find a way to neutralize his pass rush with the Steelers. And we've seen coaches do this in the past with the Green Bay Packers, the Cincinnati Bengals, and the same with the New York Jets. They were able to move their quarterbacks around, get them off the spot. More so Justin Fields and the Jets, and the same with Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. All Joe Flacco did, 5-step drop, get the football out quick. 5-step drop, get the football out quick. He used his anticipation. He used his rhythm and his timing. That's why it's important to have that in this game. And we've seen Greg Roman do this before in the past, but it needs to be consistent against his pass rush and take care of the football if you are Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert last season only had 3 interceptions. Now, granted, they didn't take those deep shots down the field. They ran the football more. They ran the football with the running backs last season with J.K. Dobbins and crew. And the same with Gus Edwards when he was fully healthy. This season it's been a different approach, even when they had a fully healthy backfield. They're going all in on Justin Herbert. He has 8 interceptions going into this matchup. You can't have those turnovers against the Steelers. They will make you pay. But Justin Herbert, one of the best quarterbacks in the game, get that football out quick, you should be fine. Now, defensively here with the Chargers, they have a top passing defense. They're third in passing defense. And the reason why that is, they play a lot of single high safety looks, a lot of rotating safeties on the back end. You have 3 safeties on the field because of the versatility with Derwin James. You hear Coach Harbaugh every single week. He's always saying great things about Derwin James. And the same with Jesse Minter, because he can be that linebacker for you. He can be that safety for you. You can move around the secondary. You can have him close to the line of scrimmage. That's the perfect role for him. But it's a tale of 2 different defenses here. Against the pass, you're phenomenal. But against the run, you've let up a lot of big-time plays to quarterbacks and to running backs this season. When you have 3 safeties on the field, you're going to have lighter boxes. It's really a college defense. At the college level, you can dominate with that. That's why Coach Harbaugh won the national championship with Michigan. Jesse Minter was the defensive coordinator. You're going against Aaron Rodgers here. He will eat up that space underneath with those tight ends and Darnell Washington, Pat, and Jonnu Smith. You have to put more bodies inside the box. Outside of Derwin James, the linebackers have to be better in this game, and Jesse Minter needs to adjust. Now, this works into your favor. The Steelers, they have talented wide receivers, but they're not getting those big-time explosive plays this year on a consistent basis. DK Metcalf has been more so of a short yardage wide receiver, especially in the red zone. Be on the lookout for that, by the way. If you have him in one-on-one situations, he can body up most cornerbacks in the game. They have Roman Wilson. He's had some good plays this season, and the same Calvin Austin III. But the biggest thing here with the Chargers in this defense, you can press up on those wide receivers, have those safeties over the top. If you can neutralize this run game, and you can stop this run game, and you can minimize the turnovers, there's a good chance that you can win this game. And you have talent up front with Khalil Mack, Thule, Henley at the linebacking spot, Dante Jackson, who was a former Steeler, was a very good cornerback last season with this team. And you have Cam Hart. So you have a lot of players in the back end that can give you good production against the pass. But you don't want to give up those big splash plays either to DK Metcalf, Roman Wilson, and the same with Calvin Austin III. Just because it hasn't happened on a consistent basis doesn't mean that the Steelers aren't possible of going out there and getting those big splash plays. Look at what DK did against the Vikings. It was a crossing route, takes it to the house for a long gain. Automatic touchdown. Blows through the secondary. You can't have moments like that against the Steelers. You want them to drive down the field. You want them to play that nasty, aggressive football, and you really want the Steelers to play from behind. Aaron Rodgers is still one of the better quarterbacks in the game. In my opinion, he's still one of the best quarterbacks in football in general, especially working off of play action. But you put more bodies inside that box, you go against that 3 tight end look, You watch those tight ends underneath with Darnell Washington, Jonnu Smith, and Pat. You should be okay in this one. And I expect for Derwin James to see a lot of Jonnu Smith, and the same with Pat. He may not see much of Darnell Washington because he's primarily a blocking tight end, but he can kill you underneath in those play action settings. But the Chargers here, offensive line bothers the hell out of me. And the fact that Justin Herbert has turned the football over at a higher rate this season. But you can limit those turnover plays. You can limit those rushing attacks on the ground in terms of those splash plays with Jaylen Warren. You should be fine here. But in order for the Chargers to win this game, you need to play a nasty and aggressive style of football. And that's up Coach Harbaugh's alley. Now let's talk about Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. Entering this matchup, they currently have a 5-3 record, and they were able to bounce back last week against the Indianapolis Colts. They won this game 27-20. And this game was not as close as the box score may suggest. They dominated the Indianapolis Colts. And you know it's a Coach Tomlin team. They're going to have situations late in the game to where they may let you come back in it. And usually when they dominate games like that, 9 times out of 10, the Steelers are on the winning end. It's the same thing that happened a month ago against the Minnesota Vikings. They dominated for 3 straight quarters, and the fourth quarter started to let the Vikings come away with some big-time plays. You can't let that happen in this game against Coach Harbaugh, Justin Herbert, and the Los Angeles Chargers. But last week was about your defense bouncing back. Your defense struggled against the Green Bay Packers and the same against the Cincinnati Bengals. They couldn't touch Joe Flacco. They couldn't touch Jordan Love on a consistent basis. But you were able to sack Daniel Jones at a high rate last week. He got sacked 5 times. And let's start with the defense here with the Steelers before we get into the offense. With the offensive line being banged up with the Chargers, this is the highest paid defense in the NFL with TJ Watt, Cameron Hayward, Alex Highsmith, Herbig, and crew. You spend a first-round pick on Derek Harmon. You need your front 7 to go out there and to feast on Justin Herbert. Pressure him constantly and play contained coverage on those edges. You need to dominate in this game against Justin Herbert up front, and you have to stop the rushing attack. Make them one-dimensional and make them test out this secondary underneath. Now, this is not the perfect team to go against in terms of running that press man coverage that Coach Tomlin loves. He loves that man coverage. I would not play man coverage repeatedly in this game. I know that playing zone coverage against a quarterback like Justin Herbert, it can give you problems. But you want to limit those big time plays. When you play that man coverage, your cornerbacks, they aren't the fastest. Joy Porter Jr. is better off as a zone corner. He had an interception last week in zone coverage. He's a holding machine in terms of man coverage. You run a double move on him, that's it for you. And quick note on the Chargers and their note of things one more time here before we go back into the Steelers. Double routes against Joy Porter Jr. could possibly help you out in this game, especially for someone like Ladd McConkey. If you put him on the outside and he runs a double route, you can easily get a penalty on Joy Porter Jr. But JPJ has to be more disciplined with his hands. You have Darius Slay, who has given up some big-time yardage this season. Gave up a big play against Garrett Wilson and the New York Jets in Week 1. And you have Brandon Echols. Brandon Echols has been a solid cornerback this season when given the opportunity. But it's not the perfect cornerback group to have out there in press man coverage for the entire game or even for the majority of the game. That's why your front 7 has to go out there and put that pressure on Justin Herbert and force him into uncomfortable situations, possibly force a fumble, which TJ Watt did last week. Not the football out of his hand. Make him throw the football into a tight window that's in zone coverage, and Joy Porter Jr. could possibly come down and break on the ball for an interception. And Jalen Ramsey is now playing the safety position with the Steelers. That's the perfect position for him, especially in this matchup. When you have someone like a Rondé at the tight end position, you would think, okay, Patrick Queen, he's this big athletic linebacker, he can guard him in space. That hasn't been his role this season. He was a better pass coverage linebacker last season. He's more so of a blitzer up the middle, more so of a run stopper. Peyton Wilson, they blitz him, but in coverage, he's giving you some big moments. So across the middle of the field, you need someone that can match up with a Rondé. Jalen Ramsey can do that. We know that he was one of the best cornerbacks in the game early on in his career. He's taken a small step back as a corner, but as a safety, he played very well last week. And you need as much help as you can get in that safety department with Deshaun Elliott being down with that knee injury. But having Jalen Ramsey see the entire field as a single high safety, that's the way to go. He can come down. He can stop the run with the running backs. He can cover out the nickel. You can blitz him. And you have Kyle Duggar. Kyle Duggar is this big, fast safety. And you have Jabril Peppers, who hasn't done much this season with the Steelers. But the safety is the strongest unit right now with the Steelers, even with the injury with Deshaun Elliott, based off of last week's game. When they put Jalen Ramsey at the safety position, Daniel Jones looked confused. Then the secondary started to play better. Then the front seven got to him constantly. So let's press man in this one. Mix in some zone and come out in some different looks. Come out in the cover 2 look and rotate Jalen Ramsey over into cover 1. They did that last week. And they messed with the head of Daniel Jones. And they were able to come away with those turnovers. They had 6 turnovers last week as a team. Chaos is the way to go in this one. And having TJ Watt rush from the interior could also be the way to go. If you're going to have Jalen Ramsey come off the side, inside that nickel position, have him as a blitzer, you can have TJ Watt rush from the interior. It can confuse a tackle and a guard. And this is what happened early in the season against the New York Jets. Just move TJ Watt around more and be on the lookout for Cameron Hayward to do damage in this game, and the same with Derek Harmon. My one fear with the Steelers is this: whenever they face banged up teams with the offensive line, they may come out and they may look past the competition and they may play down to that unit. We all know that Coach Tomlin has played down the competition before in the past, but this is one thing that doesn't get talked about enough. When he sees a weak spot on the team, he may just completely ignore it that week and say, hey, our talent can just go out there and win. That can't be the case here. You have to have some special plays up front when you go against Justin Herbert, because he is still one of the best quarterbacks in the game. And offensively speaking here, with Aaron Rodgers, last week, 25 of 35, 203 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown, 0 interceptions. He made sure, I'm going to take care of this football, take the defense gives me. If we punt the football, so be it. Our defense, they're working right now. If your defense is able to dominate against Justin Herbert and crew, play the same type of football. Go out there, be conservative. But if your defense needs your help, we know that Aaron Rodgers can take the top off the defense and he can give you at least 25 to 30 points. But this is the problem. You don't want to get in the shootout here with the Chargers because their passing defense is so elite. If Aaron Rodgers is trying to take the top off the defense, you may have a rotating safety come over, and that can cause some major problems. You don't want to get into a situation to where Aaron Rodgers has to have 3 passing touchdowns. Aaron Rodgers has to save you. He's capable of doing so. He's still one of the best quarterbacks in the game, in my opinion. He's been phenomenal this season with the Steelers. In the games that they've lost, Aaron Rodgers has stepped up big time. He hasn't had a bad game all season long, in my opinion. You can talk about the game against Seattle. One of the interceptions were not on him. He is still one of the best passers of the football. But this is where the Steelers are hurting at against this Chargers team. The receiving position. You didn't make a trade to bring in a wide receiver at the deadline. You have DK Metcalf, Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin III. Roman Wilson has had some splash plays, but he hasn't been very consistent. Calvin Austin III has had some good moments this season, hasn't been consistent, and the same with DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf last week had 2 catches for 6 receiving yards, while Calvin Austin III had 5 catches, 56 receiving yards. Calvin is a very talented player, very good wide receiver. But when you're paying DK Metcalf the amount of money that you're paying him on this contract, 5 years, $150 million, having only 2 catches is ridiculous. You can get him more involved, but don't force it. Even though the wide receiving unit isn't the best right now in terms of being top heavy, where the Steelers do excel, that 3 tight end look. Force the Chargers to put some linebackers on the field. And when they do, you work off of play action. You have Darnell Washington as an extra blocker. You work off that play action. But you want to force the Chargers to go away from their game plan. If they're going to keep going out there in those light boxes, you run that football with those 3 tight ends and you get that push up front. With Darnell Washington, with Pat and Jonnu Smith. We all know that Jaylen Warren is a talented running back, and the same with Kenneth Gainwell. And Caleb Johnson was able to get acclimated last week back into the system. Still in the doghouse for that fumble that he had, for that mishap that he had against Seattle with the special team situation. But if you can run the football against the Chargers, use time possession, force them to play from behind. That's the thing here with the Steelers. If your defense can just be dominant with that front seven, get to Justin Herbert on a consistent basis, you run that football, force them to play from behind. That's been the Steelers' way in a couple of games this season. And if they actually put more linebackers on the field, which Jesse Minter has done in the past, not the biggest fan of. You work off that play action. Not too many linebackers can guard Jonnu Smith in space. He's one of the most athletic tight ends. And you have Pat. The three tight ends with the Steelers are very interesting to me. Darnell Washington, big physical tight end. He's old school. More so, hand in the dirt, I'm going to block. Pat is a do-it-all tight end. Can block, can be a very good receiving tight end. We've seen that in his career with the right quarterback play. And you have Jonnu Smith. Just big, physical, big wide receiver, can block as well. But Pat is the do-it-all tight end. The offensive line with the Steelers, they need to play better. Aaron Rodgers did get sacked 3 times, and he's not a quarterback that's going to hold on to the football for a very long time. He's going to get the football out quick. But with all that being said, this should be a fun, physical matchup in the trenches. I'm worried about the injuries with the Chargers and their offensive line unit. It's a Steelers game at the end of the day, so you guys know that it's going to be close. I have the Steelers winning this game 27-24. But let me know in the comment section below, who do you have taking this game? Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers or Justin Herbert and the Chargers? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, I want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys.